Good morning, everybody. I'm here with a fantastic guest I can't wait to tell you about. We are in the wild world, right? On the wild ride. I don't know about you and how you're doing today. Today was like having big emotions. And as I was walking up and down the stairs, the cats are looking at me like, why are you home so much? How come you're not playing with us more? And just like this is crazy, right? All the things that are happening and changing and moving and shifting. And I was on a call yesterday with a lot of really powerful entrepreneurs and talking about what's known, what's unknown, what we can do, what we're not sure about. So it feels super timely today to talk about great decision making under stress, pressure, challenges, changes when you don't know what the future looks like, right? So I want to introduce you to Julie Gallivan. She's become a sister to me. I met her in September. And of course, when someone shares the same first name as you, there's always a right? There's a curiosity about, ooh, maybe I need to get to know them. And we sat next to each other at a table. And I was just instantly drawn into her field and who she was and what she does, because this decision making process, I've talked about it to people from the sales perspective, right? After spending 30 years in corporate and like kind of being on the other desk of how are people making decisions and having a little bit of an awareness how people kind of navigate that. But I could never put it into words like Julie can. She has made this her life's work and her ministry. And so I want to read her bio because I want to catch every detail. And then we're going to dive into this conversation, which I think is super timely. And one of the things I love Julie talks about is how to live from a rich interior by being a good decision maker and clear about your own abilities to make decisions. So I want to read your bio because there's so much good juicy in here. And then we'll say hi to you. So Julie helps people make great decisions with total confidence so they can move forward enthusiastically. And I love this piece, with peace of mind without ever looking back. The right
Woo!
decision. And I have a personal story about this that I will share with you. And what I love about Julie is she's so well rounded and she's worked with so many types of people. So it's not like there's just one mindset that she knows. She's worked with college students, mid career professionals, business leaders. I know you've worked with entrepreneurs because I've watched you do it. And and a lot of leaders to transform their uncertainty and doubt and eliminate second guessing. I love this part. So they can act with focus, creativity, and high performance. All about that, right? Especially at this time where we're in a new habitat, new world order, in a playing field when we're kind of like blind, right? So for over nearly 15 years, Julie's developed tried true techniques and practices and tested and refined her method of repeatable steps. And I'm here to tell you, in a 5-minute conversation, she helped me make a $30,000 decision that was like bringing me to tears, right? And it was just a couple of very profound questions that she asked me. And I actually had a profound inner learning from it that I'm still working with. That's a growth edge. So we'll talk about that. And what I love is that we join in our sisterhood of love of nature. She's very physical. She can be found training for a marathon, studying on a new language, playing around the guitar or piano, burying her nose in the latest physics book, people. This girl is brainiac, design book or a business book. Woohoo! So welcome to Richly Abundant Women.
Thank you. That was easily the most fun bio reading I've ever been part of. I've never had like editorial cheerleading during my bio. That was so great. I was like, I want to meet that girl.
That's right. Well, that's you, sister.
Aw.
When people read my bio, I'm like blushing because it's kind of weird to hear about yourself that way. We write a bio, we put it on a website, we go, oh yeah, whatever. But when you're sitting there in the face of it, it's,
Yep. Watching somebody read it. That was
yeah.
that was delightful. Thank you for that amazing welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. We have to catch up. It's like she's one of my sisters, and I'm
I
like, can we
know.
just like we'll rant and riff, okay? Don't
Yeah,
worry, we're good about that.
absolutely. Okay, good. I'm
But
like, this is
tell
my QT with Julie.
That's
Welcome
right.
everybody into the conversation.
So tell me why you're so passionate about decision making, because this isn't a norm, like this isn't a bucket out in the world where people go, let me focus my world around that. So
Yeah.
talk to us about that.
That's actually even part of it. You kind of honed in on it. It is the I kind of think of decision making as the silent partner in life. It's
Ooh,
in everything. I mean, every single thing
yeah,
we do in our waking moments and even in our non-waking moments is decision making. And yet you're absolutely right. It's not a thing. It's not a bucket. But yet it is such an absolutely pervasive part of life, and that when you find this kind of one fundamental thing, that if you master this one thing, it touches everything. I mean, what's not to be passionate about? It's like I want to get right to it, right to the thing that's going to maximize everything and deepen everything. So that's, I mean, that's, you really nailed it when you said that. That's really it. And then I would take it even a step further, that for me personally, I know we've talked about this. I believe that the ultimate freedom, I mean, the ultimate
yes,
freedom is having total confidence in the decisions that we make, where no matter what happens, you have that strength of heart, that strength of spirit on the inside. You know who you are, what you choose, where you stand, and you act in integrity to that with commitment and confidence. And to me, that is total freedom. So I've experienced that freedom, right? Preach,
you
right?
know, freedom's my core value. You say that, and I'm like, I'm all okay. I'm
You're like,
drinking
I'm in, I'm
now.
in. It really is true though, and especially during times like these where there are lots of external things that don't feel very free and that can feel
Yeah,
confusing and overwhelming and oppressing. But when you have that internal state of, okay, these are really challenging circumstances, whatever they may be, whether it's now during this global pandemic or in other parts of your life, even before this happened, when you have that internal sense, I know that the way I'm showing up to this is the right way for me. There is a freedom on the inside that comes even as you navigate really, really challenging things. So we could spend the whole hour, I could spend a whole day talking about my passion for it, but
yeah.
that's a little nugget.
That was beautifully said. And I love what I'm hearing you say. And this is an experience that I have because I talk a lot about sovereign domain and that inner ability, the place where you sift and funnel, where you're deeply attuned to whatever your spiritual attunement is,
Yeah,
that place of your own knowing. And I'm talking about the place that's free from imposed beliefs, what's
yeah,
happening in society, what's going on, where you sift, and if
yeah,
you have a deep awareness of that, right?
yeah,
Like, this is where I source my power and my confidence from.
yeah,
It's not about taking a class on confidence. It's
right.
that I know that no matter what life presents me with, I'm a powerful decision maker and I'm clear because I know how my decision making process works, which is why I'm so fascinated and so glad that you're doing this body of
Yeah,
work, because I think this is one of the biggest areas I think where people stay unconscious because they're pushed and they're pulled by emotions or outer experiences or what
yeah,
their limited perception of belonging
yeah,
looks like. And so it isn't really a decision as much as it's a habit to
yeah,
just fall into a certain thing, right?
yeah,
One of the biggest things I struggle with women in teaching them about sales, like the most powerful thing selling does if you're doing it. I use strength of heart all the time. Love that you said that.
yeah.
Come from in that is that you're empowering someone, navigating them as they make a decision and helping them
Oh,
be clear with a
oh,
yes or a no is the biggest gift you could ever give somebody.
yes, yes. Is anybody here wondering why Julie and I click so
Right.
like, basically, this conversation is gonna be you and I hearing the other one going, "Yes, yes,
Yeah, and
that's what I'm saying." Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That, I mean, that's it. You said it. It's an internal feeling that when you grab it, which there are there are things to navigate to be able to get down to that place,
yes.
But when you do, it really does transcend the circumstances you're in. Not to minimize the challenges that those circumstances present and the real trials and tribulations, but there is something that you carry with you throughout that transcends those. And so, a lot of what I'm so passionate about is how to make that process of getting to that unmystical and methodical and repeatable, and something that you can say, oh, I need to go access that place. I'm going to go through my steps to get there. I'm obsessed with steps. Whatever I'm learning, I'm like, tell me the steps.
Yes.
So that's a lot of what I've attempted to do over the course of my career, is really kind of demystify that, which does not mean to make it less magical. I always say
Right.
to people, don't worry, there's nothing you can do to take away the magic of life. Like, life has
Right.
got that covered. But let's demystify how to get to that magic every time. So that's a lot of where my passion comes from, is that reliability of getting to that place that can hide, for lots of reasons. So I'm totally with you on that.
I can't wait to dive into some of your steps too for people,
Oh
which we're going to do.
yes.
And I want to just briefly sidebar this. When I met you, I was still at the beginning stages of coming out of my 7 years of grieving the loss of my husband, and like being this 50 something woman, and watching all my young sisters around me being so alive and vital, and that feeling like, God, I remember when that was me.
Mhm.
And like liken it to, because I have a computer brain ish and studied computer science, that my circuit boards weren't quite all lit up yet.
Mhm.
And I knew I was at a pivot point and I needed to make an investment. And I had two people that I was looking at doing a huge investment with. It was $30,000.
Yep.
And I was like, and they were both good options, right? And I was like, I couldn't decide, but I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't also get my brain around justifying that choice in a
Yeah.
way, right? So I knew I was stuck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then that's not normal for me. And so of course, who's sitting next to me? You, right? And I remember you asked me something and I brought it up and immediately I was in tears. And tell me what you saw that had you do what you did. What is it that you saw?
That's such a great question. Wow. Okay, let me put that into words. Okay, so what I saw was a number of different things. One, I saw somebody struggling with a decision. I have a sniffer for that.
We have it
So,
over radar.
yes,
Yeah.
I have a radar. So I immediately could see that's what was going on, and that it was a tremendous opportunity for massive breakthrough, because when you have such a pointed decision like the one you were in, it really was what I call a binary decision,
Yeah.
a true binary
And
decision,
time sensitive.
a time sensitive this or this. In that sense, it's almost a simple type. It's one of the simplest types of decisions when it's that binary.
Right.
So, because it was that, because you had such emotion about it, which meant
Mm.
that, and you were present to it, which meant that you were available to it, I knew there was a tremendous opportunity there. And so, to me, the things that tangle up decisions, if if you're able to, well, actually, let me step back and say one other thing I saw that was really important. And you named it. You said you're not usually there. I saw a woman who actually has an incredible amount of clarity and self-knowledge, which we'll get into that later,
Yeah.
because it has a lot to do with quick decision making. So I could see that you were available to work through this extremely quickly. So all I had to do was put the questions in place. So when it comes down to making decisions, and like you said, you knew what the right decision was for you, but a right decision is not just about the external, it's about the path you take to get there, so that you can have that peace of mind and say, I choose this and I 100% go into that. Versus if you maybe in your heart you know the right decision, but if you're pushing and pulling and you have fears and hold back, then you actually make the right decision into the wrong decision by how you show up, right?
Wow.
Because, yeah, take a minute to take those great
Whoa.
pieces. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
that was powerful.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can see that. And when you asked me, we're going to go to break here shortly, but
Yeah.
you asked me, something and what I learned from it, and we'll go into the steps and how to do this. I think what
Yeah.
she just did for you is some key points that you can look at when you know that you're stuck, you're feeling emotion. There's
Mhm.
choice A, choice B.
Mhm.
We're being pulled in one way, but you keep wondering about the other
Yeah.
option. Is a good time.
Yes.
That's a good flag to know that you're a little stuck on your decision making. And what
Yeah.
I learned in that moment was the thing that wasn't the thing that I really wanted to do, I was attached to emotionally for a completely inappropriate reason, or a reason that had nothing to do with why I was making the decision.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're going to go to break.
Okay.
We'll be right back. And when we come back, Julie's going to walk us through her steps of how to make a great decision when you're feeling stuck. And I
Mhm.
can't wait to explore more. And I'll tell you more about what I learned about myself through this process too. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned to Richly Abundant Women. And we're going to come back and talk about how to make great decisions under pressure. Welcome back to Richly Abundant Women. Today I am talking with one of my most favorite people who I met recently, but we will be friends for life, Miss Julie Gallivan. And her work is all about making great decisions. And I think this is one of those times when really mastering this skill set will give you that inner peace, that ability to live from that rich place inside, which is a lot of what the show is about. And I want to share with you how you can find out more from Julie. You can go to her website at imakegreatdecisions.com. That's easy, right? imakegreatdecisions.com. And where can they find you on Facebook?
I have a brand new Facebook group, so you can come in and help start the party, help start the conversation. It's called "How to Make a Great Decision and Never Look Back." So come join and come
Love
talk
that.
great decisions.
You
Yes.
know, that's where the suffering is, the constantly looking back, right?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
It's
it's
terrible.
so
The
much
I wish,
suffering
what if
around
I
this.
had? Yeah, you just
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
no fun. You
No
want to be
fun.
able to make the decision and then enjoy it and enjoy the execution and the
Oh my
implementation,
gosh.
the fruits
Yes.
of it. Yeah.
I love how you're giving this whole thing a new context, and I think bringing a lot of consciousness and conscientiousness
Yeah.
to decision making. So
Yeah.
let's break this down for people. What are the steps someone could take themselves through, or that you would advise them to
Yes.
really tune into how to make a great decision? Where
Okay.
should they start?
Okay. So, and I'll say some pieces, and then I want to come back and talk through once we understand these steps. We can come
Yeah.
back to your decision we were talking
Yes.
about and understand how that was able to happen in 10 minutes, and
Yep.
that over time, when people practice these steps, they'll be able to do the same thing with themselves.
Yes.
The first thing, kind of, it's a step, which is to find out what type of decision we're making. So I have different tools for different types of decisions. And a lot of times when people hear types of decisions, they might think, oh, you mean like a money decision versus a relationship decision? And actually, that's not what I mean at all. It's
Yeah.
not types based on what the content is, but what the kind of manner, the mechanism of the decision is. So we've got those little decisions that we're making day to day. You know, I decided to wear these earrings and have my hair down, and I made those decisions very, very quickly and barely put a lot of thought into them, although I put some thought. Don't worry. Don't worry. I took this
Look
seriously.
fabulous, darling.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So we've got those decisions that we're making constantly that we may not even realize are decisions, but they fill up it's really our time management, our energy management. So there's a tool for that, which is not the one I'm going to take you through, but recognizing those are decisions and there are techniques for that. Then there's decisions that are all about really, as you approach an event, an experience, a part of your life, really getting clear on how you're showing up to it. So it's decision in the most abstract sense, kind of like how you're positioning and how you're showing up to something. And that's another type of
Mm.
decision. Then I get into the two types of decisions that I have put a lot of work in with people, because this is a lot of times where people really need to dig in. One is what I call, we talked about before, a binary decision, which is what you were encountering. That's a yes or no decision, a option A or option B decision. And I'm going to take you through the steps for that today. And then the fourth one is the big kahuna. This is the big kahuna. This is what do I want to do with my life type of decision. These
Oh,
are the
wow.
Yes, the overarching, open-ended, there's not option A and option B. It's just a vast, wide open sea
Blank
of options,
canvas.
big canvas, which those questions can be really overwhelming. And those can
Yeah.
be, what do I want out of my career? What kind of person do I want to be? Who do I want to be in the world? Where do I stand with family? What do I want out of my relationships? All of these really open-ended questions that when you get clarity on those questions, that the answers to those questions feed thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of decisions that flow forth from that. So there's different techniques that I teach people for different types of approaching decisions. So the steps I'm going to teach you are the binary decision steps. So, and these really, what one of the reasons I want to start here is, if it's actually coming down to any of those other three things, it will
Yeah.
come out in the wash when you look at a binary decision. If you have something in front of you that is a yes or no decision, and you use these techniques, you're going to find out if actually it's way bigger than this. Maybe you were asking.
Oh, that's good to know. Like, you might have it in the wrong context, right?
Exactly. So, for
Mm,
example, I've worked with someone before where they were saying, "Oh gosh, I'm trying to decide." This is a little hypothetical, but this general pathway of things I've worked with many times. I'm trying to decide if I want to go to college A or college B for medical school. And then I ask the question, "So you're certain you want to become a doctor?" And they go, "Oh, well, not certain, not for sure." Right?
wow.
It's like there's assumption there. It's just because
Mm.
there's something in front of you, and taking action is a really good way to soothe the discomfort of the three scariest words in the human language, which are I don't know, right? Who wants to say I don't know? But take a breath, take a deep breath and say it. I don't know.
And boy, are we in I don't know right now.
Right, right. It's okay. You're still here. Even if you don't know, you're still here. So a lot of times people will push an action and a decision as urgent, as priority, because there's so much discomfort sitting in, I don't actually even know what to do and what to make decisions about. And really what I'm in the presence of is those big overarching questions, which are really scary. What is this time about for me? What do I want my life to be like when COVID becomes more resolved and everything turns on again? That's too scary. So I'm going to just, tend to what's right in front of me. So that type of thing will come out in the wash. If you have a binary decision that really isn't a true binary decision, that will come out in the wash when we do this tool. And if it is a straight binary decision, you'll get your answer.
Yeah. I want to interrupt you for 1 second.
Yeah.
I want to say we're in this time of this great pandemic. However, I want to share with everybody, and I've been saying this consistently for a few weeks on the last couple of shows, is life is always going to hand us curveballs. And they're always going to be either big, small, digestible, not digestible, weird, wild, whatever. And so, whether this is going on out in the world or not, or something of the same type of disruption is happening in your personal life, this works, right? In
Yes.
the financial market, it's
Right.
called a black swan. And we can
Yes.
all be having those black swans at any point of time in our life, right? And
Absolutely.
so, not just about the pandemic, but
Yep.
about what is so disruptive that it changed everything can be in a daily occurrence for a host
Absolutely.
of reasons.
Absolutely. And that's when you say that, it brings to an important point, which is, a lot of times recently I've been talking about how to make great decisions in uncertain and fluid times. And then immediately I'll come right in and say, that title's a little deceptive, because
Yeah,
how to make
it's always
effective
like that.
decisions is the same whether you're in times of stability and status quo or uncertain times. It's just that uncertain times will reveal the degree of clarity you have.
Mm,
And if you have clarity, you will feel able to be nimble and agile and move and change as your context changes with a solid true north, just like a compass that you could flip all around and have a hailstorm
Amen,
and
sister.
land
Staying
directly,
centered.
right? It's still pointing in the same direction. So when you have deep internal clarity of self, of what you choose in one area of your world or of your life or of your business, then as the context changes, yes, you need to orient and respond, but your ability to do that is guided by that internal compass. So absolutely, these tools for making effective decisions, they are for always, and they're just ever so much more important. My hope is that of some of the hopeful benefits that will come out of this, not in the any sense that it's what we would want to be the cost, but still there are things we can pull out of this time. My hope is that one of them is people really take the chance to take stock and recognize the power of building up clarity to be able to respond with
Mm,
agility to changing context. So I think that's such a good point that you bring that up. So you also mentioned something really important. You talked about whether things are digestible or not digestible. And in saying that, you intuitively hit on exactly the mechanism of this tool and of all of the clarity tools that I do. So we are living, breathing, walking, talking, decision making machines. That is what we are. That is what we are built to do. We naturally make effective decisions. However, our wonderful analytical minds, which is only one of our resources,
yeah.
can only process 7 to 11 variables at one time. This is something that has been studied. That's why phone numbers, social security numbers don't go longer than 11 numbers, because that's what we can handle. 7 to 11. When was the last time you made a decision that only had 11 variables in it? I can't even pick a cereal in the cereal aisle with only 11 variables. These decisions are maxing out our processing capacity that we have to make every day, even when we're not in the middle of such upheaval. There are
Right.
so many moving parts and factors. So that's what causes all of these bottlenecks, all of the second guessing. When we go back to what your decision was, all I did was pull apart two things that got tangled together
Mm,
so that your natural decision making process could chew each one separately. And you were able to do it completely easefully because that natural decision making process was there. I just was like the mom cutting up the sandwich
yeah, and
into,
I couldn't figure out I couldn't figure out that something was tangled, and I
yes,
couldn't figure out what it was that was tangled.
exactly,
You ask
exactly.
yourself the wrong questions when you're not aware, and then and then you get it stuck in the doom loop.
Then yeah, and
Yeah.
then your brain, that 7 to 11 brain, which is wonderful and built to survive and help you survive, is just going to start coming up with whatever it can that's built out of only 7 to 11 variables to make sense of things, and it creates these very oversimplified things like I'm not good enough, or I'll never fix this, or make this or that. And that's what it can come up with, is these really simple things that don't feel good and don't fit the situation. So that's what happened in your decision. We were able to pull those apart, and then your natural mechanism just kicked in and did the rest and digested it. So, getting to the steps here.
Yeah.
So, we'll introduce the steps, and then maybe after our next break, we can really
Yep.
get really deeply into them. So, the first step, for, again, for a binary decision. So, this is a yes or no decision. So, if you're listening right now and you have one of these on your mind, maybe it's a hey, do I launch this new business product? Hey, do I choose to make an organized routine for my kids, or do I choose to just go with it and just kind of go with the flow during this time? Whatever decision is really pressing on you, or financial decisions. Do I choose to make this investment, or buoy up my savings in XYZ way, or whatever choices are on your mind? If it's an A or B, first start by putting at the top of a page, and we're going to do this as a written exercise with Julie. It was a verbal, but that was because of the nature of all the things we talked about before, and she had me right
And there
here.
was
Having,
199 variables in the room.
yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. So write it down at the top of the page. Now, the first step is to actually identify if you had to make an instant decision right now, knowing that you wouldn't necessarily feel totally confident in that decision, but it's just where you are leaning right now. Right at the top of the page, a statement as if you have finished your decision and it's the decision that you're leaning towards. So for example, if I'm deciding, do I launch a podcast or not? So let's say I'm leaning towards yes, yes, Julie. Let's say I'm leaning 51% to yes. So I'm going to write at the top of the page, I choose to launch a podcast. So notice I'm writing that as if the decision is already made. So don't worry, this you're not committing yourself to this decision. What we're doing is we're giving the mind something tangible and concrete to hook onto, to bounce off of. Because if you notice, anytime you're feeling overwhelmed, it's like being underwater with your eyes closed and you just don't know where the bottom is. There's nothing to stand on. So your brain needs something to put its feet on. So we're starting with a decision in one direction. When we have that kind of back and forth, that internal conflict, what's happening is your mind is making the decision in different directions and constantly changing it, and then you get internal reactions to those that are floating you all over the place. So we want to eliminate that. We're just narrowing it down to, okay, I'm going to assess this decision based on the direction I'm leaning towards. Does that make sense? As the first step?
Totally makes sense. I get it.
Okay, so I've got at the top of the page, I choose to start a podcast. So now I'm going to make three different categories. And if you're doing this on notebook paper, I'd make them on three separate pages because there's going to be, these are topic headings, there's going to be things underneath there. The first category is reasons why. So
Ooh,
we're
I
going to,
love it.
reasons why. This is not a pros and cons list. These are your motivations. So, your reasons why might be reasons that sound really good. Like, oh, this is a great opportunity to share my message with the world. I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that. And maybe there's some reasons that you're embarrassed about. Like, well, everybody else is doing a podcast. And if I don't do one, I feel like I'm left out and not really uh, part of the crowd. And your mind might want to say, oh, don't admit that. If it's motivating you, if it's in your thoughts, if it's in your drive, it needs to go on that page. I did this once when I was deciding whether or not to buy a television, and I found out one of my motivations. This is when I didn't have a TV in my house, was that I had a perfect place to put it. That doesn't make sense as why you get a TV, but these are the types of things that can
Love
change.
this. Yes.
So, reasons why. And next, put a column for reasons why not. So, these are the things that make you go, oh gosh, push, pull, push, pull. So, we got reasons why not. Don't worry if they're good reasons, just if they're motivating you. We're not worried about pros and cons because just because something is a pro or a con does not mean it's motivating you. And I'll give you the next step when we return.
I love this. So this is powerful, people. This is really powerful. I totally encourage you over the break to do what Julie said. Assume that you made the decision, write your reasons why not. We're going to talk more about this and take you through the next step. You're listening to Richly Abundant Women, how to make great decisions under pressure, under duress, in a personally challenged time. And we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Richly Abundant Women. I'm here with Julie Gallivan. We're talking about how to make a great decision and never look back. So right before the break, we were talking about the couple of steps that you could take. One is on a piece of paper at the top, whatever it is that you're leaning towards, assume that you've made that decision. She was giving the example of, I'm going to launch a podcast. So at the top of the page, it said, I choose to launch a podcast, in two columns, reasons to do it, reasons why not. And that's where we left off. So go
Yes.
ahead and take us into the rest of this.
Okay. So this is actually, and I want to put out there, this is a really in-depth tool that can actually take, it depends on the size of the decision and the amount of entangled and conflicted thoughts and the amount of moving parts and factors. You could use this tool and get through it in half an hour. It could take you days, it could take you weeks, it could take you months. It all depends on what you're pouring into it. But the important thing to know is any one of the steps that you do could be the step that loosens up enough so that your natural decision making process will go from there. So you don't actually have to take it all the way through to get value from it. But before we jump into the next part of what I was talking about, I want to give you the quickest little trick that is truly a 30-second quick decision making tool. And
Love
it might
this.
seem like a joke, but this is real. I use this all the time. And it is a coin flip trick.
Yeah, totally.
right? Okay, so but there's a trick to it, because the whole point of this trick is not to leave something to chance, although that can be great too if that's how you want to roll with something, but it's actually to help immediately cut through the noise of indecision and all of these tangled parts by that thing that you were talking about at the beginning, Julie, that knowing in the center. This tool will kind of coax that up to the surface and distract all of those distracting voices. So here's the trick. So you flip a coin, 2 out of 3. Again, this is for a binary decision. Do I want to do this or do this? Do I choose to do this or do this? Flip the coin, 2 out of 3. After the coin tells you the decision, you have to go with the coin. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, unless in the split second after the coin gives you the decision, you immediately go against the coin with total decision.
Yeah, you don't
And
like the outcome.
say again,
When
if
you
you
don't like the outcome, if you don't like the result the coin toss gives you
with certainty,
with
if you don't like it with certainty. So what that means is you are still free to make your own choice, and that time you're flipping the coin, your system starts kind of processing all of the things. So by the time you get to that end, that coin revealing the choice, sometimes the truth comes through and you know what it is. But if you don't like the result of the coin, but you're still feeling uncertain, you have to go with the coin. And that just is telling you you've got bigger clarity to sort out. And it doesn't actually have to do with this decision. You may think it has to do with this decision, but it actually has to do with deeper questions. So make this decision, especially if it's like, what do I want to have for dinner? If it's about whether or not you want to have another
yeah.
child, maybe take some time and recognize you need to do a clarity process. So there's your 30-second tool. So let's come back to the tool that we were using before. So this is for binary decisions. This is that deeper, if you have a minute to sit down and write things out. So you've written your reasons why, you've written your reasons why not, and we've made sure to get them all out and mine every single one that's in there, whether it's pretty or not pretty, whether you're proud of it or not proud of it, whether it's stated well or not stated well. What are your motivations? And the question I often ask people that really gets people riled up, so we won't go too far into it, but I ask people, is this list 100% complete? This 100% complete concept is a tricky one, but essentially just skip to, if I have a feeling that there's another motivation that's not on this list, sit with it, because it's important to know what's driving you.
Yep.
And when it came to your decision, Julie,
Yep.
what was causing that back and forth, when we really saw and brought up to the surface what was motivating you to do the choice that you didn't really want to, once you're able to see it, you're able to go, oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not the right motivation. And one of the things I did was I gave you kind of an option of, are there other ways for you to express that motivation? And you immediately said, oh, absolutely, yes. And that motivation has nothing to do with this decision. So it's really important to get all of your reasons why out there and probe until you have the feeling, yeah, that's it. That's all the things that are driving me. Same thing with reasons why not. Okay, so third category, really important category, one that really actually drives the bus a lot and we oftentimes don't acknowledge. And it's called things to address. Things to address. This is different than reasons why not. Things to address is, what are the factors that are floating in your mind, whether it's mindset issues or practical issues, that are getting in your way, that essentially these are the things that you would need to be addressed in order to feel good about how you implement your decision. So, for example, if I choose to start a podcast, I might say, maybe it's showing up in my mind as, I don't really know what the audience would be for my podcast. And that shows up as a block. But if I put that on my things to address, all of a sudden now, this is just something I need to take care of. This is a truly transformational column. So many people get caught up, that spinning wheel is because things that simply need to be addressed and problem solved just get served up by the mind as barriers, but they are not barriers. Now I look at that list, I'm going to come back to it later and I'm going to go, oh, So who would be the audience for my podcast? Now it's just a question. It's just on my list of things to do. Whereas
Instead of
before,
an I don't know, which is like a
yeah, exactly. Something that was saying you go, well, but what about this? It moves it into, well, but what about this? Let's address it. Do you see what I mean? Do you see that shift? How it goes from a wall to something that you can become proactive about. So, what are all of the things on your mind when you think about implementing the choice at the top of the page that you would need to address in order to feel so good about how you do it? Maybe other things I would put down are it's really important to me to deliver amazing quality. Okay, that's something that needs to be addressed. How will I find the time to keep up with my podcast? Okay, that's something will need to be addressed. All these things that show up and start to clog the works. Does that make sense?
yeah. So let's recap the steps here.
Hmm.
Was there another step in there after
Nope.
this one?
Nope. Well, there are steps after
Yeah.
the yes.
Okay. So this is how to get clarity is this make an assumption that you've made a decision, which is the thing that you're leaning towards deciding.
Yep.
Write that at the top of the page,
Yes.
make a column, and just spend some time digging into why.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
then another column, why not?
Yep.
And then on a separate sheet of paper, put what would it take to implement? Was that the right?
Yes. Things to
Yes.
address. What do I need to address
What do I need to address?
yes, in
Love
order to
this.
feel good about my
Yeah.
implementation. Yes. So this is all, believe it or not, even though there was 4 steps there, that was 4 steps that's part of step 1. So there is much more. When I say much more, we're talking about getting you to a total confidence decision.
Right.
So, in the example of what you went through, Julie,
Yes.
because you actually had so much clarity, you went through all of the things that we just talked about and all of the steps afterwards by me just asking you a few simple questions. So, this tool is going to take anybody through all of that, depending, and it's going to change how much you need to sort through depending on how many factors there are. So, this tool, if you actually stick with it, will take you through however many factors there are. But this is where you can start to see if there's a lot of factors, that's where it does help to have somebody guiding you through it and to really learn the tool. But once you learn it, you have it in your back pocket. So, do I have just a few minutes more to give the follow-up
Yeah,
step?
there are a
Okay.
couple things I'd like to say.
Okay. So I'll just give just the next follow up step. There are, like I said, a number of steps to get all the way to that 100%. But as I said, every single step in this tool will loosen up some of the clog in that 7 to 11 brain. And at any point, it gets loosened up enough, your natural decision making will take over, which is what you experienced, Julie. We loosened up the clog, boom, you took care of the rest naturally. So
It's like
this
Drano for the brain.
that's what it is. That is so what it is. Drano from their brain. Okay, so next step, everyone, and then we'll leave it at this. And if you actually get all the way through these steps that I'm saying here today and want to go further, definitely reach out to me and you can learn the rest of the steps and keep digging down until you get that full clog-free experience. So the next step is to go through and on a scale of 1 to 10, you're going to rate each reason why not, and each thing to address on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, as a reason, it makes you feel all tight and conflicted. 10 being, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. This is exactly what motivates me in life. This is going to reveal those deeper tangles. So make your ratings from 1 to 10. All of a sudden, things are going to start flowing. And if you want to take steps further than that, you know where to find me. So go ahead, Julie.
That's awesome. I love this. This is such a powerful tool and practice that you've given people. You can find Julie at imakegreatdecisions.com or her Facebook page, which is
How to make a great decision and never look back.
love that. And, I wanted to share something really profound that someone said to me and talk a little bit more about this personal story that had us sort of come together. A while back, someone said to me that a very disempowering way to look at decisions is to walk around saying, I'm confused.
Mm.
And they said, but it's more powerful to really think about it. Am I clear or am I unclear? Because then you have ability to do something with it, right? Like it gives you leverage back. When we say things like, I'm confused, right?
Mhm.
Then there's too much brain clutter.
Yes.
And I always loved that distinction, which helped me get out of the first level of
Yes.
right,
Yep.
to I'm unclear, I'm clear, or I'm unclear.
Love
And
it.
to just it's a distinction, and then you can do something with that. You can do
Yeah.
something with I'm unclear where you
Yeah.
can't do something with I'm confused.
Yes. And I would add to that all of those other thoughts or those other feelings we think of as angsty, anxiety, fear, frustration. If you can bring that same sentence, you know what? This is a
Yeah.
messenger to me that I'm unclear.
This has been a fantastic time with you. I have loved sharing this space with you. And I just want to put a bow on the little story we opened our session or our recording with. And I was making a $30,000 decision, and this lovely being is sitting next to me. And what was so interesting in the couple questions that she asked me that unclogged my block, what I found is that the reason I kept going back and forth was the one, let's call it decision B. It was a good offer, but there were really key components of that offer that were missing that had my flags going up from a business perspective. But from a personal perspective, I had this really weird limiting belief in there that that was the only way to be a part of that community. And that's not true. And I didn't know that that's what was creating the block. And so to actually have leverage and go, I never looked back, and I knew what was the right decision for me intuitively, but I couldn't get my body and mind around it. And that's why. And so that's something that I really look at now when I make decisions. It sticks with me. Am I attached to this for the wrong reason? And so is there another way to get that reason expressed, which is what you taught me and so powerful. So we've reached our time today. It goes by so fast. Thank you for your generosity and your beautiful brain and your process that you've shared with us.
Oh,
And this has been another episode of Richly Abundant Women, where we were focused on living rich from the inside out and making great decisions under pressure. Thank you.
thank you.